Hey, welcome everybody. I'm Love Coach Scott Katamas, and it is Saturday Night Alive for the Global Peace Tribe. We have an incredible show tonight. I am so impressed with the remarkable human beings that are blessing us with their presence. Um, Really a remarkable group, as you're about to see. But I want to invite those of you that are watching us on Facebook or YouTube to come on into our Zoom room. You can still come on in, and this is the place to be because it's easier for us to answer your questions back and forth. And you're kind of connected to us. And it's easy. All you got to do is go to globalpeacetribe.com, globalpeacetribe.com, and register. And what's good about registering is that we get your email address. We're the only ones that are going to send you an email. And we'll let you know about our upcoming show. Every week, you'll get an email letting you know what's next. And you'll also get an email that tells you how to go back and watch the replay of this show and the replay of all previous shows. This is the 72nd show we've done. We started when the pandemic began. We thought it was going to be a few weeks. So we'd do some shows, keep people entertained. And of course, it's become what it's become a regular event for a lot of people, thousands of people. So thank you. Come into our Zoom room and also share it because tonight's topic is really important. Let's take a breath. We're talking about death tonight. We're talking about embracing death with compassion. And death is all around us right now. Probably more in our awareness than usual. And many of us have friends that are dying or have had friends that have died. And maybe many of us are looking ahead and going, oh, wow, maybe we're thinking more about death, thinking about that time that we're going to leave our body. And so tonight you're going to hear from people who have been studying this for decades. People are going to hear from Dannion Brinkley and Sean Leather and Paul Perry. We're going to take your questions. So if you've got questions, and I know a couple of you had stories you wanted to share, send them to me again in the chat box or right now, 25 minutes, I should say. One of my dearest friends that I've met through this world, and of course, I'm talking about Dannion Brinkley. And I'm imagining most of you know Brother Dannion. He wrote the book Saved by the Light that was based on his own experience. And as I've heard Dannion say many times, he's died so many times, it ain't funny. He's had several near-death experiences, and it's dramatically impacted his life. Now, there's the best-selling books, there's the world tours, there's the movie they made about his life. But the thing about Dannion that I think is most important is he has helped thousands of people one-on-one to prepare for what's on the other side. He has led and guided, and I've watched him do this, many, many, many people, thousands of people. And that service has been extraordinary. So Dannion, thank you, first of all, for being on the show again. And thank you for your service to the world. And I'm going to just turn over to you, brother. What would you like for our audience to know? What do you want to talk about tonight?
Well, the thing that's most important is really where we are. And I think that what's so grand is that you and Diana, Deb, put this together because all of us have to come to a place as this world is evolving so very fast and so very quickly. We have to make solid decisions about where to go and what to do with our lives as we approach the next couple of months, Scott. Mm-hmm. And so when you talk about compassionately facing death, there is no other way to do it. So the greatest way to compassionately look at death is to understand without any question, it never happens. It's called transition. It's transition. Nobody dies. People have to get over that. It will not happen. And once that you get a grip on that fact, then you start paying attention to who you spiritually are. equal to who you physically and human are. These are the rules. And when you go back and look all these years, which a lot of us who are been around a long time will be reflecting, you go back and look a lot of years about the near-death experience. When Paul Perry and I wrote Saved by the Light 1,000 years ago, 25 years ago, and then At Peace in the Light, they were the strategies based on what I saw in the first near-death experience, Scott, and everybody that's listening. I saw what became the boxes of knowledge, which told the story of this event coming. In Saved by the Light, written 25 years ago or 26 years ago, about an event that happened 45 years ago. There was a series of events that would transpire. And as these series of events would transpire, it would lead up to a point of transition or the birth of an age or being able to be controlled and manipulated. And these were the two choices. So the title of box 12 of the 12 boxes that were in the vision in my death experience being struck by lightning are chronologued in Saved by the Light. And what happened in At Peace in the Light was me looking at what I saw. The battle for the souls of humankind would be fought in healthcare. So At Peace in the Light was how to maneuver what I believe to be the visions of the boxes of knowledge, because after the 12th box, there is the final vision. Okay, and there is where the real secret to the meaning of life is. The final vision gives you an idea of who you are, why you are, and what you're doing here, and truly who you are. Okay, because once we look at that, then this becomes a job. And this becomes a place of creativity, power, and empowerment. So At Peace guides that pattern to knowing that this day would come, that they would become the technology and the virus. And it would set in motion a system of control of people having to really take a good look at if they're taking care of themselves. And from the far reaches of the psychology of the world, or from biblical, it could almost be the end times. But for me, it's the birthing of a new age, a birthing of another way of consciousness, because the boxes of knowledge say we win. We take back control of our lives, and we take back control of our health care, because the system that can control and manipulate us is health care. What would we do to not take care of our children? What would we do to not take care of our parents, for those who still have them? And what would we not do to take care of ourselves? That's the trap. So Paul and I have designed a whole way in these books. And then Catherine and I, when we wrote The Secrets of the Light, it was to come to a softer viewpoint, everybody, of things that exist as natures or patterns of behavior, because I have observed this through 4 of these experiences: struck by lightning, open heart surgery, brain surgery, open heart surgery, and then 2 clinical resuscitations in the last 3 years. So I have witnessed and watched and studied this and saw that what Paul and I wrote and what we put together is 2 guys in our 70s looking at one who knows as much about the near-death experience as anyone who's never had one. And me, I think I know everything about them, or I have a deep understanding, because part of the design of where the vision was to take me was to engage healthcare, to position and maneuver myself through healthcare, to create the Twilight Brigade, to create one of the largest end-of-life care programs for dying veterans, so that I could live close to palliative and end-of-life care, and I could be impactful based on that would be the place where, when people became scared to death of death, scared to hug each other, scared to interact with each other, and scared to be close to each other. That, Scott, and that family who's here tonight, this is where our fight And I'll say this with a very calm and almost peaceful statement, is this. The devil is, I can give the devil a thankful adieu for this reason. Because if anybody thinks, for any reason, that they could kept me from getting to my mother and my father as they were making their transition to this world to the next, that would be a sad state of affairs, because that would never happen. As you know, I see that there is luck in the world because my parents have left this world. So when we look, Scott, there's a timetable. And I think that Paul and I expressed it as well, and Catherine expressed it as well as we could as we're evolving. Okay, so if you see that in box 5, chapter 12, that there would come a time when a person would grow with so much wealth, with chips and software and all of this stuff, that they would literally think that they were godlike, or would create and control ways in which that people could be literally enslaved, or could be controlled or manipulated, or to be outcast, or to be euthanized because of the pressure that we are going to burden the healthcare system in a collapsing economy. Now, that's literally what we saw, and that's literally where we are. Okay, wow. So instead of getting upset about that, I already saw it. We are there.
So a couple questions for you, and I just again want to welcome everybody coming into our early Zoom room show. We've got the amazing Dannion Brinkley with us. Dannion, who's an incredible visionary. And he's mentioned a couple of times Paul Perry, who collaborated with him on his books, and Paul is with us also tonight, and you'll be meeting Paul in a little bit. And Dannion, I definitely want to make sure people are asking about the Twilight Brigade. So I definitely want to make sure that you talk about the Twilight Brigade and how people can support the Twilight Brigade and the beautiful work that you do in helping people to prepare for the transition for the next chapter in their experience.
Well, okay, everybody, watch. Everybody sooner or later is going to be a hospice volunteer. No one escapes this fact, because, you know, the legendary Dannion saying, if you're breathing, you're leaving. Okay, so the basic thing that if you're taking a breath right now, you will be leaving this world. So by knowing as much about it as you possibly can, and having parameters by which you observe it that's not filled with religion and fear and damnation and all that bull that we listen to control the illusion of thinking that you're going to die. You are never going to die. It's not going to happen. Period. Okay, so once that concept is faced, and you face it, then you empower your life to live. So the Twilight Brigade, tonight I'd like to dedicate my part in this program in the honor of Sandy Hatfield. Sandy Hatfield was my head trainer of the Twilight Brigade for over 20 years. And she left this world Monday. And she went very, very fast. And so as I think about now, in her honor, the Twilight Brigade will become the Transition Brigade in honor of her. So anyone can go to the Twilight Brigade. It's up, and you can register and you can see what we're doing. But we're now in a major shift, everybody. This is the way Sandy wanted it to go, and now it's going to go that way. But when you finish the show, or when you take a break, or you're listening to a song, put Bill in your heart. Bill was married to Sandy since Adam and Eve, and they were a perfect match. And I tried to call him today, and if you could stop everybody for a moment, just imagine Bill and Sandy. Their pictures on the Twilight Brigade website, and he is with her tonight. But she did not die. So the heart that we feel on the human side is to feel that love and that surrounding of another human being. But on the other side, That does not exist. And let me give you guys the punchline. In the spiritual world, two things never happen. Never. You're never helpless and you're never alone. So when you come to this plane of existence, you take on these two concepts: helplessness. Helplessness is at birth, and helplessness is in transition or quote unquote die. And then relationships, being alone. Because the nature of living in this reality is to interact with people and develop relationships. And in those relationships, you come into contact with how to be true, interact, support, and build something together as teams. So when you create an illness or something that keeps you helpless or creates loneliness, that structures despair. Okay? Once you know how it works, everybody, it's just a series of thought patterns that you have based on being aware as a spiritual being that you're never helpless and never alone. You cognitively create a more powerful thought pattern of helplessness and being alone. And that is what frightens us and scares us, literally, to be afraid of death. So someone knows that, and someone is using that structure to interact with us. So what our job is to recognize it and realize it's a social psychological way of them or groups of people to control and manipulate us, to not stay connected to our spiritual self. I sincerely believe, everybody, that we're in a transitional period, in an awakening that is far superior to any of the three-dimensional realities that we have been living in, at least in my life. And I am aware of it. I can feel this thing happening. And that all these forces of sicknesses and viruses and technologies and controlled and chip implants and all of that is to hold us in a certain level, to keep us from moving through the spiritual energetic patterns that is happening around us. Don't let it happen, everybody. Don't let it happen. These are the things that I want to get across tonight as much as anything.
Well, thank
The
you.
value of your
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
the value of your love. What value do you place upon your love? And how do you act on it? Second, what is the value of your belief system? The value of what you believe. What's its value? And then what's the value of the choices that you are making? So what's the value? What's the value of your love? What's the value of what you believe about your love? And what's the value of the belief about your love that impacts the choices that you make? And number 4, what is the power of your prayer? And I define prayer as willful, conscious intent. If you take those 4 things and you give them a value, everybody, the level of intensities of the energetic patterns that are occurring now to uplift us and to expand us will work for you. And if you don't, you will stay locked into a pattern where you become scared to death of hugging your own children, your own friends, and scared to death that someone you love can kill you or you can kill them. This is a trap, everybody, that tonight we open up our hearts, we listen consciously to the words and the sounds and the music of everybody, and we lift up our hearts and let's ride that wave into this next empowering plane.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dannion. And it is true. We are coming together. I notice that we've got people from Australia, New Zealand, Ecuador, Costa Rica, Hawaii, all over the United States. And that's just in our Zoom room audience. Soon we're going to have thousands of people joining us on Facebook. And so this is a really important time for us to come together as a community, to learn, to listen, Now, you have had the challenge, but also the blessing of being on that other side. You've experienced it. For people who haven't had an out of body experience or a near death experience or a hallucinogenic experience, who haven't had an experience of the other side, maybe we're raised with religious doctrine of hellfire, damnation, or whatever it may be, what do you suggest, Dannion, as steps to build that bridge between where they are and what they've been indoctrinated with and what you and many of the people that are with us tonight have actually experienced?
Well, my part's easy. Nobody dies. It's the stupidest thing that you could ever think. You are a great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose. No matter what you think, no matter what some religion has told you, no matter what some evil influence or some righteous influence has told you, you are a great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being with dignity, direction, and purpose. You were chosen to come to this plane of existence, and you chose to get here. And in the real world of the dynamics of spirituality, and Paul and I wrote this in our book, you are the hero because you are the anchor. Who you are as you come into this plane existence anchors 7 other dimensional levels of consciousness. They do not grow unless you hold the line as a spiritual being with a certain specific purpose and goal in this life, and then things that you choose to do. This is reality, everybody. This is what happens. So as you sit and you think of all that stuff you took, read it, and heard, the way you leave this world is not anything like you hear it religiously, except for maybe the life review. None of that stuff operates like that. You have vague references to it, Scott, but I've been through this 4 times, and I have more than 34,000 hours at the bedside. I've been with thousands of people, and many of them resuscitated. You know, I'm not just a casual near-deather. I've given my entire life to the study of the panoramic life review, and I've given my entire life to study how people leave this world and what they most need to be able to leave. That's why I created the Twilight Brigade. From being on both sides of that veil, I have a level viewpoint. So if you've never had a near-death experience and you've been locked in this religious context that most of it's made up, then you stop tonight. Stop it. I wouldn't be telling you this if I didn't know it to be the absolute truth. Because remember, everybody, in the panoramic life review, you see your whole life pass before you in a 360-degree panorama. You will have missed nothing. You will watch your life from a second-person point of view as though you were your own best friend. And then you will literally become every person that you've ever encountered. And you will feel the direct results of your interaction between you and every person. You become them. No one gets away with anything. And everybody's responsible for their actions here. And the universe is fair and just. And at the end of that, you're going to ask yourself one question. If God couldn't come today, God sent you. In the life you just reviewed, what difference did you and God make? I became a hospice volunteer, and I've spent my entire life in palliative and end-of-life care, developing end-of-life care programs and strategies that have been adopted by the VA. The VA has taken 3 of my programs and made adopted programs out of it to help veterans in palliative and end-of-life care and integrative therapy. So this is how it works, everybody. And if you stop and you trust me, because if I'm going to be every one of you, and I'm going to feel the direct results of my interaction between you and me, as if you think I'm lying to you, then you lost your mind.
I don't think anybody thinks that. And as you can see, this man knows what he's talking about. He's very passionate, and I just freaking love you so much, Dannion. Thank you for being here.